All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Alzheimer's presentation, Knowing the 10 Signs of Alzheimer's, and essentially how to use this understanding and information when it comes to working with library users as well as their caregivers, and what sort of resources are available to the greater population. I want to formally welcome everyone to today's program. My name is Jen Park. I'm the Community Engagement and Talent Development Specialist at Ramapo Catskill Library System. And thank you so much to Cody Medina. Cody, am I saying your last name correctly?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So just some information about Cody. Cody works with the Alzheimer's Association for the Hudson Valley chapter as a community engagement manager and diversity specialist throughout Westchester, Rockland, Orange, and Dutchess County. Cody's primary focus revolves around developing and implementing strategies for serving diverse, underserved millennial communities in order to bridge the gap between Alzheimer's disease information and support for the younger caregivers. Cody works with universities, community centers, libraries, and other organizations to deliver educational training sessions, such as this one, as well as host in-person tabling opportunities, when they exist, to continue expansion in care and support for families in need. And with that, I'm going to remove myself from video and audio. However, if anyone needs to be in touch with me, I am present. You can direct message me via the chat, or you can send me an email and I'll be able to assist as I am able. If you have any questions during the presentation, I just ask that you not interrupt Cody. He will be sharing a presentation with us. But you can go ahead and place those questions or comments in the chat box and we'll come back to them at the end of this session. So with that, Cody, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen, for that wonderful introduction. Really appreciate you again, hosting me and helping me set this up with all of your colleagues throughout Rockland County. As Jen stated, I am a part of the Alzheimer's Association. This education program is presented by them. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to discuss today the 10 warning signs. So I'm just going to share my screen really quickly and then we can begin. Okay, there it is. Okay, perfect. Okay, so today we're going to explore the most common warning signs of Alzheimer's to help you get informed about what is normal aging and what is not. By the end of today's program, the goal is for you to be able to describe typical age-related memory changes in thinking and behavior, to recognize common warning signs of Alzheimer's and dementia, to discuss the tips of approaching someone about memory concerns, explain the importance of early detection and benefits of diagnosis, identify possible tests and assessments for the diagnostic process, and of course, we're going to name some of the resources that are available through the Alzheimer's Association that you can hopefully share with some of the constituents that you deal with. So throughout today's presentation, we're going to periodically check in with the Garcias. They are a fictitious family following along as Mary's daughters to discuss their mother's memory changes and take action to find the cause. So just one thing to note, the Garcias experience, it might be common, something that you experience personally throughout the community, but it does not represent an exact experience for everyone. So these situations, they very much vary from person to person. So we have Mary, a 73-year-old widow. She lives alone. She's a retired teacher. Excuse me. She's a retired teacher who always and meticulously cared for her home. Her daughter Lydia has recently been noticing laundry pile up and junk mail and old newspapers lying around the house. Lydia, to the left, she is the eldest of Mary's two daughters. She lives a few miles away and visits the mother frequently. Patricia on the right lives in another state. She works very long hours and is unable to visit her mother frequently. She communicates with Mary and Lydia frequently via phone and text. Lydia is concerned about their mother's noticeable lack of tidiness and that she is continuously losing things. So she reaches out to Patricia. All right, so I'm just going to read this text message for you guys. So it says, worried about mom. She keeps losing things and the house is a mess. Probably normal to get a little forgetful with age. It's so unlike her. Should we worry? Let's reach out to our old neighbor, Dr. Salway. So I just want to point out that although this is a fictitious, it's a fictitious scenario, Dr. Stephen Salloway is in fact a real MD. He has been recognized as a leading expert in aging, Alzheimer's disease, and other memory disorders. So let's see what Dr. Salloway has to say about this.
Cody, we don't have any volume coming through.
Okay, one second. My apologies. I always forget to click that bottom. Okay.
What might be the beginning of a memory problem is people have a lot of trouble coming up with words or names, and it's happening more frequently, and the words or names don't necessarily come to them later. And then they start misplacing things, but not just once in a while, because we all misplace things, but more often. And it begins to interfere day to day. That should be a warning sign for people that this might be the beginning of a memory problem.
All right, so apologies for that. Volume should be all set. So moving forward, today we're here to learn about, dementia, Alzheimer's, and identify. I've heard the terms dementia and Alzheimer's used interchangeably. While they are related, there are some differences. So we're going to hear more about some dementia and Alzheimer's association experts. So first, Dr. Heather Snyder, she's going to discuss what dementia is.
Dementia is the umbrella term for an individual's changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. There are many possible causes of dementia, and Alzheimer's is the most common cause. Other causes of dementia are vascular dementia, which is marked by changes in the blood flow in the blood vessels in the brain. Dementia with Lewy bodies, identified by specific brain changes throughout the brain that include the buildup of a protein known as alpha-synuclein. And frontal temporal dementia, which is marked by brain cell loss in the front sections of the brain or the frontal lobe. Each type of dementia may have distinct characteristics to cause specific behaviors in the individual, but there is also some overlap in behaviors among the types of dementia.
All right, so just one quick thing to reiterate. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. There's actually over 70 different types of dementia that an individual can be diagnosed with. So you hear Alzheimer's the most because that is the most common type of dementia that neurologists tend to diagnose. So Alzheimer's is also the most common form of dementia, and it actually accounts for more than 80% of all cases. Next, Dr. Dean Hartley is going to explain to us what the disease is and what it looks like in the brain.
More than 100 years ago, Dr. Alois Alzheimer's described specific changes in the brain, what we call the formation of plaques and tangles. Now, Alzheimer's is a progressive brain disease that's marked by these key changes and is thought to impact memory, thinking, and behavior. The brain has three main parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. Each one plays a role in how the body functions. The cerebrum fills up most of your skull. It is part of the brain most involved in remembering, problem solving, thinking, and even feelings. There are about 100 billion nerve cells or neurons throughout the brain that transmit messages in order for us to create memories, feelings, and thoughts. Alzheimer's disease causes nerve cells to die, which leads to the brain tissue loss, or what we call shrinkage, and causes loss of function and communication between cells. These changes can cause the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, such as memory loss, problems with thinking, planning, behavioral issues, and even at the end stages, problems with swallowing.
All right, lastly, we'll hear from Ruth Drew. She's the Director of Information and Support Services at the Alzheimer's Association, and she's going to talk to us about the importance of recognizing the warning signs.
It's important to know what the warning signs of Alzheimer's are and to be on the lookout. We know that we change over time, and the warning signs of Alzheimer's can be warning signs of a number of things, but when you see those in yourself or in someone you care about, it's important to check it out, to consult with a doctor, to find out what you're dealing with.
All right, so as Ruth said, it's important to know what the warning signs are and to be on the lookout for these marked changes. The Alzheimer's Association, as a leader in this area, developed a list of 10 warning signs to help people understand the difference between normal aging and common signs of possible dementia. This is a list intended to be a tool to help identify unusual changes in a person's memory, thinking, or behavior. It's important to note that this list does not constitute diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia. They are simply the most common examples of changes experienced. Individuals may experience one or more of these signs in different degrees. So what we're going to do, we're going to explore each sign and see what some typical age-related changes may be. So the first sign is memory loss that disrupts daily life. One of the most common signs of Alzheimer's, especially early on, is forgetting recently learned information. Others include forgetting important dates or events, repeatedly asking the same questions, and increasingly relying on memory aids or leaning on others for things or tasks once handled on their own. A typical age-related change is sometimes forgetting information, but of course remembering it later on. As we go throughout these 10 signs, you'll see that that's kind of like the key component is you're able to retrace your steps in a sense. So sign number 2 is challenges in planning or solving problems. Some people may experience new difficulties in executive functioning. So that could be including, following a plan or having difficulty really concentrating. Conversely, a more typical age-related change is making occasional errors when managing bills or household finances, right? So if we, are trying to calculate a bill and we're off by $50 or $60, if we're able to go back and see that, oh, I made that error in that area, then, you should be okay. That shouldn't be anything to alarm you. We're actually going to hear from John. He is living with dementia with Lewy bodies about how he experienced this early warning sign.
I was probably spending 4 to 5 times more time preparing for something than I did, say, 5 or 10 years ago, because of I would lose my thought, I'd lose my focus, I'd get anxious, I wouldn't get to sleep. I was thinking of this, I was in my sleep, I was thinking about what I was anxious about, which was what I was trying to remember, which was what I was trying to prepare, which I was trying to do. So it was really a vicious circle of, so I was able to control it a lot, so that people wouldn't see things and that there weren't things to be seen. It's what was disturbing me was what effort I had to put into to do the things I used to do more easily.
All right, sign 3 is difficulty completing familiar tasks. So people living with dementia often find it hard to complete daily tasks that used to be manageable with ease. So this can be driving to a familiar place, writing a grocery list, or remembering how to play a favorite game. I always say Uno because it's such a simple game to play. You match the colors with the colors and the numbers with the numbers. Conversely, a typical age-related change would be occasionally needing help to use a microwave or remote. This could also include having trouble with new technology that the person hasn't had the opportunity to engage with as frequently. So, technology is constantly changing. If an individual has a little bit trouble adapting to that new technology, but eventually figures it out, this is, again, another sign that you really shouldn't be worried about. Again, it's that the emphasis is on, going to familiar locations that they've been to before, whether that's a restaurant in the community, whether that's your library. If you've seen them within your specific library and you know them and you're like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, this is a nice library. First time I've been here. Those are things that you want to mark with the constituents that you deal with. Number 4 is confusion with time or place. An individual living with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia, they may lose track of dates, seasons, or a passage of time. They may have trouble understanding something if it is not currently happening, or become confused about where they are or how they got there. This can become more dramatic or profound in the middle and late stages. A more typical age-related change could be getting confused about what day it is, or when they may have scheduled an appointment, but of course figuring it out later on. Sign 5 is trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. So individuals with Alzheimer's or another dementia may experience vision problems, and that can actually lead to difficulty with balance, trouble reading, and problems judging distance and determining color and contrast, which can all impact, of course, driving or navigating the environment around them. Vision changes such as cataracts are more of a typical age-related change. It's important to think about all the other ways that someone's daily life may be impacted by any of these changes. Our experts explain more, so let's take a look.
Alzheimer's disease is not just a disease of memory. It can affect other things too. It can affect the way that we perceive what we see. So sometimes somebody in the early stages of Alzheimer's might go to the eye doctor because they're having trouble seeing, and in fact, their vision is just fine, but the way they're perceiving what they're seeing may be difficult.
Right, so to me, that was one thing that I found not alarming, but I had no idea when I first joined that vision could be something that could be an indication of whether or not the individual is developing some type of dementia. So again, it's just something to jot down and just to keep in mind, whether again, loved one, neighbor, anybody in the community. Okay, on to sign number 6. So this is new problems with words and speaking or writing. So individuals, they may have trouble following or joining a conversation. They may stop in the middle of a conversation and forget what they were talking about and continuously repeat themselves. They might also struggle with finding the right word or calling things by the wrong name. They may start using more descriptive terms to talk about something rather than the actual name of the object. So a great example I like to give is if you're sitting at the dinner table with your loved one and they pick up a fork, they have no idea what the fork is. They call it a different object, and they do not use that utensil to eat. They use it to maybe scratch their head. They use it to, I don't know, put it in their sock. These are things that are actually very common. So we are going to hear from Phil. He's also living with Alzheimer's about this particular sign.
The other thing that I've increasingly been struggling with are words, which I've dealt with words my entire life, as an avid reader, as a reporter, as a writer. I struggle with them now.
Okay, sign number 7 is misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. So this sign often causes concern in people. I want to clarify that this is not just about losing your keys on occasion. Misplacing things from time to time are, people do that. I misplace my keys. My wife does. It's just something that happens. The key is, again, to be able to retrace your steps. So a person with Alzheimer's disease, they may lose things and not be able to recall when it was last seen or identify the location it was placed. Or he or she may put things in unusual places. So that can be putting shoes in a refrigerator, putting butter under a pillowcase, very random places that you would never think of, a very foreign situation. So because of the lack of executive function and awareness, the person may grow increasingly suspicious of others. So they may start accusing others of stealing, and over time do it more frequently. So just I guess a personal experience I'll share with everybody. So my father-in-law, he has Alzheimer's disease, and one of the main things that we've experienced personally was, again, misplacing things and actually him accusing us of stealing his wallet. So again, over time within the middle stages that increased, but it's just interesting that um, uh, that suspicion kind of increases over time. And one of the things we did to combat this was we always say to kind of live in their reality. So in the beginning, I kind of didn't know how to respond regarding the communication style. So of course, any person, if they tell you, hey, you stole something of mine, what would you do? You become defensive. Now, not that it happens as often, if he was to say, hey, you took my wallet, I would just reach in the back of my pants, pull out my own wallet, and say, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. Let me go place that upstairs for you. One, it diverts the situation and it really de-escalates the possibility of it increasing. So again, another important thing to notice regarding this sign. We're going to hear from Ruth Drew again, and she's going to also explain this a little further.
So some people wonder if they lose their keys or their glasses or their purse, is that a sign of Alzheimer's? And one thing that I would say about that is for most of us, we might misplace something, but then if we retrace our steps, we can usually find it. We can usually remember. For a person with Alzheimer's, sometimes they're not able to retrace their steps. Sometimes that memory is just gone. And so when they do find their keys next to the phone because they got interrupted by a phone call when they were coming in, they set their keys down in an unusual space, so there they are next to the phone. If that happened to you or me, we'd probably remember, oh yeah, the phone was ringing when I came in the door. I put down my keys. The person with Alzheimer's might not remember. They might wonder who's moving their keys around because they never put their keys by the phone. So that's just a little bit of a difference in some of the dynamics with losing things in Alzheimer's.
Great, and also just to put it in the context of a library environment, whether again, somebody in the community and they always visit the library, but on occasion, more so often, they end up, misplacing things. They go to the front desk, they ask you constantly, oh, have you seen this or that? That's just something to also to keep in mind, and if you do witness that, to have that conversation with them and see if this is something that they have noticed, oh, do you remember misplacing, X, Y, and Z last week, and just kind of hearing them out and seeing what they have to say about that situation. All right, on to sign number 8. This is decreased or poor judgment. So individuals may experience changes in judgment or decision making, such as using poor judgment when dealing with money or paying less attention to hygiene and grooming. This can be especially common in individuals who live alone. Making a bad decision once in a while, such as forgetting to get an oil change, is more of a typical age-related change. So again, in the context of, at the library, if you see somebody that their nails are super long, their hair is kind of all over the place, and it's not, it's okay. We don't need to constantly be groomed always, but if this is a thing that every single day or situation, they're there, and it just gets worse and worse over time. That's something to take note of as well. And then on the financial side, individuals that have trouble dealing with money, they may spend $200 to $300 on I don't know, toilet paper or $200 to $300 on eggs, just an excessive amount on something that, of course, is not needed. So again, just something to take note of. We're going to skip that video and go on to sign number 9. So this is withdrawal from work or social activities. As we age, of course, it's normal to feel uninterested by family or social engagement at times. However, someone who is experiencing dementia-related changes may start to lose their ability to hold or follow a conversation, and as a result, begin withdrawing from social encounters or hobbies. So they may lose the confidence to engage in that way. So at a library, if you know somebody that's really outgoing, they always come up to your desk, they always have conversations with you. You know them by their first and last name, you know a lot about their life, and they're just, they're pretty much an open book. And then all of a sudden, they switch on a dime, they're quiet, they keep to themselves, they're in the corner. That's something that is another indication that they may be experiencing some type of dementia. We are going to, for sign number 9, we're going to check out a video by Dr. Salloway. So let's hear what he has to say on this.
One of the most common changes, and early on, is the person's comfort zone shrinks a little bit, and then that gets worse throughout the course of the illness. So they're less comfortable going out, they're less motivated to do things than they were in the past. So there's some change in day-to-day functioning that way. I think people also lose confidence in their cognitive abilities, because they may not recognize someone or know their name or find the right word, and they'll feel awkward, and they don't want people to notice that, so they feel more comfortable at home or in situations with family where they're very, very comfortable with that wouldn't concern them. So people tend to withdraw a little bit and be less outgoing. That's can be one of the early signs of Alzheimer's.
Okay, on to sign number 10, and that is changes in mood and personality. So individuals with Alzheimer's or another dementia may become confused, suspicious, depressed, fearful, or anxious. They might get easily upset, either at home or when out of their comfort zone. As we age, however, it's normal to develop very specific ways of doing things and becoming upset or irritable when our routine is disrupted. We all have a routine. I like my morning coffee. If I don't get my morning coffee, I might be a little off. Someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, they may become fearful, angry, or easily frustrated, which is something that actually should be addressed. So Dr. Salloway, he's again going to share more on this topic.
Another early sign of Alzheimer's or dementia is subtle changes in behavior. So all of a sudden, the family may notice the person is more easily irritated, or more impatient, or a little moody, or have a shorter fuse, or more anxious. Now, there's lots of things that can cause that, but often that can be an early symptom of Alzheimer's or go along with the early symptoms of memory loss.
All right, so we are going to check back in with the Garcias. As we talked about earlier, Mary's daughters are concerned about the changes they're observing with their mother. So they want to know when it's time to see a doctor about those changes. And we're going to take a look at their conversation. Did you look at the warning signs info I sent? I did, but still don't know. Mom's showing a couple of signs, but not all the time. How do we know if it's serious enough to see a doctor? Let's check with Dr. Salloway. So let's see what he has to say about this.
Memory is not all or none, especially when there are early symptoms or signs. So on a good day, people might function very well and not really no one notices there's a memory problem. But on other days, especially if they're tired, then things become more noticeable. So memory is variable. It's not all or none. And then there are different type of symptoms that develop for each person. So some people may have trouble with language, may have trouble with organizing themselves, may have trouble navigating while driving, and other people don't have the same symptoms. So you don't have to have every symptom of Alzheimer's to be concerned. And I think the most important thing is determining what has changed from that person's normal level of functioning. And usually people have a pretty keen sense of, what they can normally do well. And then when either they or the family notice that there has been some change from that usual pattern of functioning, that should be a warning sign to people. But they don't have to check off all the boxes.
All right, so Dr. Salloway, he really gave us a great recap. It's important to remember that these warning signs are intended to be a guide to help identify problems in memory, thinking, or behavior that may be related to Alzheimer's or another dementia. Individuals may experience one, all, or some of these signs in varying degrees and in numerous or single occurrences. They do not have to experience them all for there to be a concern. It's important to discuss any changes in memory, thinking, or behavior in either yourself or someone else with a doctor. So, our next topic is early detection. It's key that we pay attention to what's going on with our own cognitive health and not dismiss any changes that we may be experiencing as normal aging, as well as that of others around us. Any change that's unusual for your level of functioning, again, I'm going to repeat that, specifically for your level of functioning or that of someone around you, is a cause for concern. Many times, friends and family are the first to notice changes in someone's memory, behavior, or other abilities. In this module, we're going to discuss why it's critical to address any observed changes early and seek answers from a medical professional. Sometimes the person exhibiting symptoms isn't aware or may not have the insight to know that they are experiencing these changes, which is why having outside perspective is absolutely critical. This is especially important for individuals who live alone or are far from family and friends. Let's listen again to Dr. Salloway as he discusses this, and then hear from a care partner who was the first to notice changes in her husband.
It's a very interesting phenomena that people who have memory problems are often less aware of it than family members or their friends who know them well. One of the reasons for that is our ability to monitor ourselves, which is an important part of brain function, decreases when we start having memory problems. Not in everybody, but commonly, and more than half the people with memory problems. And so the person is just not keeping track of the trouble they're having day to day. But the family members are, paying attention. If they're paying attention, they see, boy, this is starting to happen a lot, and the person's not aware of it. So the family's more aware, and they may talk to their loved one about it, and they say, I've noticed you've been repeating yourself. And they say, I'm not repeating myself. And that could either be due to the fact that they're not aware of it, or they may not want to acknowledge it.
All right, let's see what Mary noticed again with her husband.
I was so adamant about what was happening to Daryl. I wasn't sure. I didn't know. And this wasn't the person that I know. This wasn't the person. Daryl was my husband was very, he always had to be building or designing or working with his hands. And it was getting to the point where he wasn't, and he was becoming very frustrated when he was forgetting to do things or go places.
So if you continue to observe these changes, it's critical that you plan to take the next step and have a conversation with the person or others close to him or her about what you've noticed. This can be a difficult or uncomfortable conversation to have. The Alzheimer's Association, we actually developed a roadmap of 10 helpful steps to help make addressing memory concerns less daunting and more productive. So we're going to take a look at these 10 steps. I am going to go a little quickly throughout these steps because this is more along the lines of it's a really personal matter. Of course, at the library, I'm sure many of you develop personal relationships with the constituents and community members that you serve. So in a way, it still can be applied. I'm going to click on the first box, and that is, of course, asking yourself, what changes in memory, thinking, or behavior did you see or that you're seeing? Try to think about, what the person is doing or what they're not doing, and whether or not that's really a cause for concern. The next step is to ask yourself, what else is going on? Various conditions can use changes in memory, thinking, and behavior. Are there other health or lifestyle issues that could be contributing to these changes? That can be stress, diabetes, or change in medication. And we list those things because they mimic signs of memory loss. So if there is something that you see regarding a constituent, this can be actually a way to encourage them to go get, a diagnosis, to go get them checked out. Because it's more along the lines of just kind of telling them, hey, let's check out your health. Let's see what's going on with your health. It may not be this type of dementia. So it's actually a great way to influence them to go get that diagnosis. Step 3 is to learn about the signs and the benefits of early diagnosis. Of course, everybody's already doing that by doing this education program. It's key to become more aware of these 10 signs so that you can, again, identify them within the community and the constituents that come to each of your libraries. 4, has anyone else noticed the changes you've observed? So you can talk with friends, family members, even coworkers at the library. Hey, so I've seen Mr. Smith here, this week, last week, throughout the month. Have you noticed him, misplacing things constantly? So it's just good to get another perspective. Step 5, of course, is have that conversation. This is where I say it might not apply as much. Maybe if you want to have this conversation with a loved one of theirs that's dropping them off, that's definitely an initial step that you can take with them. But on a more personal level, of course, even if you guys may have a family member that is dealing with this, it's great to again have that conversation. It could be you. One of the things I want to advocate for, and what we advocate for at the association, it could be you, but it doesn't have to be you. It can be a trusted family member or a friend. It can be a combination. It's usually best to speak one-on-one, though, so that that person doesn't feel threatened or ambushed. But use what you know about the person, again, to kind of judge what might work best. So, like we discussed, who should have the conversation to discuss these concerns that you've witnessed? 6 is when and where should the conversation be held? So it's important to have the conversation as soon as possible, in addition to identifying a date and time. You should also consider where the person will feel most comfortable. So, they could have had a long day at work. So again, more along the lines of on a personal level. If you realize they had a long day at work and they just want to relax, might not be the best day to have that conversation at the dinner table. Maybe you wait a little bit later on when they're having a glass of wine, they're a little bit more relaxed. Trying again to catch them when they're feeling most comfortable. The key ingredient. 7, what will you or the person having the conversation say? So you may want to build out the script. Consider, following questions such as, I've noticed X, Y, and Z in you, and I'm concerned. Have you noticed this? Are you worried? Have you been feeling, how have you been feeling lately? Excuse me. You haven't seemed like yourself. I noticed, and again, insert that example. It worried me. We always, again, advocate for taking notes, seeing what you've witnessed throughout the week, throughout the month, so that you have something to refer to. 8 is offer to go with the person to the doctor. So ask the person to see a doctor and offer to accompany them. Try using encouraging words, such as there are a lot of things that could be causing this. Let's see if the doctor can help us figure out what's going on, right? So more of a team effort. The sooner we know what's causing these problems, the sooner we can address it. And I think it would give us both peace of mind if we talk to a doctor. 9 is, if needed, have multiple conversations. So of course, the first conversation might not go well. Please don't be discouraged. It's fine to have multiple conversations. It's not a one and done thing. And then 10, of course, is reach out for support. You can turn to the Alzheimer's Association and call our 24/7 helpline numbers to talk with master level clinicians who can provide reliable support and information, including how to have this important conversation. And finally, of course, the reason why we're having this conversation, the reason why identifying these 10 warning signs is to ultimately get them to see a doctor. Most people address concern about memory, thinking, and behavior with their primary care physician first. However, in some cases, the primary care physician may refer the person to a specialist for further evaluation. So we have an example of some of the specialists that they may include. So we have a geriatrician, we have a neurologist, a neuropsychologist, psychiatrist, and a psychologist. So these are, again, just some of the things to keep in mind and maybe take note of, just to kind of give yourself a good idea of what that process may be like if another individual, if you do see it at the library and you tell a loved one of theirs what they're seeing and they kind of ask, oh, do you have any idea about that process and what they might go through? You can give them a list of, possible specialists that they may need to see. Okay, so we now know what signs to look for and how to approach the conversation. We're going to quickly discuss some the benefits of early detection.
There are a number of benefits in early detection of Alzheimer's. For one thing, a person is able to have a voice in what happens next. They can make plans. They can live life more on their own terms. They can also make plans for the future, financial plans, care plans. They can let people know what they want, which can be a real gift later on. It also allows time for families to make plans and to make decisions about who can do what and figure out care and those kinds of issues. Also, the treatments that are available for Alzheimer's don't cure Alzheimer's. They don't slow down the disease, but they do help with symptoms. And it seems as though they tend to work better the earlier a person is able to use those. So that can help too. Some people are interested in clinical trials. Clinical trials allow people to have access to treatments that aren't available yet. And for some people, that can be a really important thing to pursue.
So paying attention to changes you notice in people, especially regarding memory, thinking, or behavior, is important for early detection. If you do observe unusual behaviors or occurrences, take action by having a conversation about what you observe. Consider using the 10-step to approach memory concern that we discussed as a guide for this conversation. Of course, you can customize it to your comfortability about ways to approach the person and the best way to be supportive. There are a number of benefits to early detection, such as planning for the future, as Ruth Drew shared, and access to treatments for symptoms and participation in clinical trials. We're now going to take a look at what may be involved in the medical process to determine the cause of symptoms. Let's start by testing your knowledge. Okay, so we have a question here. I will go ahead and choose that correct answer for you guys. So this is going to be a true or false question. You can just ask yourself, or rather tell yourself the answer in your head while I'm going through this, and hopefully you guys are on the same page as me. If not, that's okay. So first question, true or false again. There is currently no way to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. True or false? Let's see. We're going to say false. Okay, so there are a number of assessments and tests that make it possible for healthcare professionals to diagnose Alzheimer's with a high degree of certainty. So here we're going to explore possible steps of the diagnostic process. But we're going to keep in mind that as we review these steps, not everyone may be asked to undergo each one by their doctor. Assessments may include medical history, physical exam, screen for depression, interview with close companions. Tests may include laboratory tests, mental cognitive status tests, and brain imaging. So again, these are just great things to keep in mind when you may indicate, seeing that lapse in memory, thinking, or behavior with a regular, community member at your library and their loved one asking, again, how that process may go. Great way to kind of map it out for them. So Mary's daughters are preparing for answers about their mom's changes in behavior. They wonder, do dementia-like symptoms always result in a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or another dementia? Appointments have been going well. Mom's handling them okay. Think it's really dementia? Guess we won't know until we get a diagnosis. But let's ask Dr. Salloway if it could possibly be anything else. And if you remember, I kind of mentioned that there were other, again, possibilities to mimic memory lapses. So hopefully you guys remember.
Someone could have high blood pressure that's out of control, or they might have a thyroid condition that's not regulated, or diabetes that's not right, or on a medication that actually can cause memory loss. Drinking too much alcohol can make memory worse. So there are a lot of factors that go into cognitive difficulty with aging that some of them can be remedied. And so we want to do everything we can to improve cognitive ability and quality of life.
All right, so as he mentioned, there are many underlying factors that can also mimic signs of memory loss. This is just a recap, so for the sake of time, I'm going to go straight through that. Okay, so if the diagnosis is Alzheimer's, what's next? Let's see what Mary's daughters, Lydia and Patricia, do. I called but got your voicemail. How'd it go? Call you later when I get home. The diagnosis is early stage Alzheimer's. Oh no, what do we do now? Doc said the Alzheimer's Association offers free resources. Some even help people live well with the disease. We'll call soon, but left the office with some hope. The Alzheimer's Association is in communities across the country, providing direct service to individuals and families facing the disease. Our mission is to eliminate Alzheimer's disease through the advancement of research, provide enhanced care to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. So the association is available wherever and whenever you need the information and support. There are 3 of our key resources that can connect you to information and support, which include our 24/7 helpline number. Again, anytime throughout the day, whether you're dealing with a constituent at the library that is asking for some support, you can give them this number and we can help them anytime throughout the day. They call, they tell us their geographical location, what the situation is that they're dealing with, and we'll connect them with the person that can help best support them. Of course, we have our alz.org website, which can help an individual navigate to many different free resources that they can utilize. And then we have our communities nationwide, and that's alz.org/CRF, which is a part of our website above. But the CRF link basically helps them really navigate towards the resources that are specifically within their area. So they can go ahead and type in again their location. They can type in what they're looking for, education programs, support groups, and it'll give them access to that right away. So now that we've taken a basic look at Alzheimer's disease and what resources are available, let's talk about how everybody can hopefully take action. So you can volunteer. I'm going to go through each one of these. You can volunteer, whether you can spare a few hours, a week, or make more of a significant time commitment. Consider volunteering. There's numerous opportunities available, including becoming a community educator or even joining your local walk planning committee. You can visit aoz.org/volunteer. We have advocacy, which is you can become an Alzheimer's Association advocate and speak out on behalf of the needs and rights of those facing Alzheimer's disease. And you can visit aozimpact.org. Trial Match is a way for everybody to really get involved, more along the lines of a personal level. They can participate in clinical trials. And really, again, it's a free, easy-to-use clinical studies matching service. They can visit aoz.org/trial match. And then, of course, we have our Walk to End Alzheimer's. And this year, it's going to look a bit different because, we're not allowed to gather in large social settings. But we are using this slogan, Walk Everywhere. So it's going to be on a virtual platform. We're going to have our introduction on our virtual platform, and we're encouraging people to walk, whether it's within their park, within their, just local neighborhood, and really, again, be a part of our walk nationwide, which is great. So if you want to do our Rockland Walk, but you live in Utah or somewhere far, but you prefer the Rockland Walk, you can still be a part of our Rockland Walk, which is awesome. So at this time, I would like to open the floor up to questions, Jen. I don't know. I can't really see the chat box, but if there are any questions that anybody has asked, or if you would like to unmute your mic, whatever you prefer, please do so.
Thank you so much, Cody. That was greatly helpful. I will say I don't think it is our place as librarians and library staff or directors or trustees to, just say to a patron, what's happening, in questioning their health. But I am interested in hearing about what sort of games that you feel would be advantageous with memory assistance.
Absolutely. That's a great question to ask. So we actually have another program that covers 4 different strategies towards kind of reducing the risk to Alzheimer's and any other kinds of dementias. So one of them talks about our stimulation regarding our cognitive abilities. So what's great for that is, of course, reading local newspapers, doing crossword puzzles, engaging in social activities. I know it's a bit different, but maybe joining book clubs online. That way you're reading and then having a conversation after, constantly challenging and stimulating your mind, which is great. So again, games like crossword puzzles, games like even Uno, just constantly challenging your brain. And then even outside of that realm of games, you can always, if there's a hobby that you've always wanted to learn, so you can teach yourself how to play an instrument. You can go ahead and learn how to play guitar, piano. Really, there are so many different options towards ways that you can stimulate your brain. But a lot of people have more so, especially at the association, we've advocated for crossword puzzles. Those are extremely beneficial.
Great, thank you. We have a comment in the chat from Joy who says short story discussion groups. Her library has started one of those. Joy, can you tell us a bit more? Has that been popular? What have you found with that?
Sure. We started it about 6 months ago, and it's really worked well during COVID because we actually have people in regular book groups that have said they actually have trouble. I don't know if it's stress related or what, but trouble reading longer books right now, which is a little strange because we have time at home, right? But I've heard that from a number of people. So the short story group has actually kept going online, obviously, but kept going. And that seems like in general, it's helped with attention spans. People have said, they've really enjoyed reading something that's like 12 pages long instead of like 400 pages long. So I would think short stories would be a wonderful thing for, someone in early stages of dementia that could keep, especially someone who would previously loved to read.
Right.
So,
That's Joy. That's beautiful that you guys have started that, and it's definitely extremely beneficial. And you are right for individuals that are in the early stages. Again, there's that component of just focus, right? So being able to still tackle that cognitive stimulation by including these short stories and bringing them together. I mean, engagement alone is a huge beneficial component to add into any mix. And it really does, not only with just dementia, but with different types of diseases, can really, help an individual cope with it. So I think that's a great thing. And I hope that other libraries also, if they haven't started this, maybe they should consider starting it, because it is, it's something that, again, keep them engaged.
If you have a question or comment for Cody, feel free to place it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just speak it.
Cody, I have a quick question. This is sort of more of a medical question. Is it something that affects women more or men more? Is it about even?
Wow, no, that's a great question. I want to say 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients or individuals are women, so it's more along the lines of it affecting women more. And there's other risk factors too. So regarding different populations, so African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, they're all at about they're at a higher risk 2 times as compared to other populations, and that's correlated to different health disparities that they're prone to developing throughout their life cycle. But yeah, it's very interesting. Women are more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease in particular.
We have a question in the chat regarding diet.
Yes.
Is there any link between dieting and Alzheimer's?
Absolutely, there is. That's the other component to the 4 strategies that we are advocates for. So diet is a huge component. Essentially, I want to say the best diet that you can incorporate is the Mediterranean diet, right? Because you have your leafy greens, you have your fish, you have your poultry, you have your different oils, nuts, grains. Those are all things that have helped to reduce the risk towards Alzheimer's disease and other kind of dementias. And again, that spans across other diseases as well. So yes, diet does have an impact, does have a huge impact.
Okay, we have a question regarding is it hereditary?
It is hereditary. Yes, it is. And then to kind of piggyback off that, there's actually 2 genes that an individual carries. One of them, of course, is their just the genetic spectrum, but the other is called the deterministic gene. That's 2% of individuals carry this gene. It's extremely rare, but if you do carry this deterministic gene, then you will, at some time in your lifespan, develop some kind of dementia. Very rare again, but yes, it is. It is, and sure, it is hereditary. Yes.
Cody, we have an anonymous question. Can you just speak about dealing with an employee that might be an early onset and how we can help them with their work?
Sure, and just to kind of understand, so you mean just like a colleague?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So for one is to definitely keep notes over time. If you see any changes regarding memory, thinking, or behavior regarding a colleague, just to keep notes, just to make sure that, this is something that is occurring. Other colleagues, other employees, and make sure that you're all on the same page. Upon confirmation of everybody kind of seeing that there is a hiccup, whether again that's in their overall functioning, then look for a time to have that conversation, maybe during a lunch break. Address it with them, share your concerns, and just kind of see what they have to say on the matter. Again, when you think about the 10-step approach towards having that conversation that I shared with earlier, it's always it's really important and essential to be mindful of where that conversation is being held. So maybe you want to have it in a little bit more of a private setting. If you're close with that employee, maybe if you want to have it with them after work when you're hanging out, having a drink, or if you're just at their house, spending time hanging out with each other. Really important to again be mindful of where that conversation is being held. But again, the end goal is to have that conversation, address it with them, and to have more of a team approach, right? So always use words like we or us, so that so that they know that you're on their side and that they're not being targeted. But again, yeah, it's always good to keep notes, to get others involved, and then have that conversation when you think it's best for them, when they're comfortable.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to give it just another moment to see if there are any further questions, but it is after 11.
Perfect. No, thank you so much. In a way, and whenever you're ready, we can end this, but I just want to say thank you again, Jen, and everybody else that joined. It was an absolute pleasure just going through this presentation with you guys. And the questions too, great questions. I'm really happy to be able to provide any other insight that's needed. If there are additional questions to Jen, you can share with them my email. I don't know if that works. And
Yep.
if they want to ask me anything on the side that's a little more personal, I'd be happy to answer as well.
Absolutely, thank you. I'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow, everyone, and I'll provide Cody's information within that email. I'll also have an online evaluation form link in that email if you don't mind taking a few minutes to fill that out. At this time, I'm going to stop the recording.